We're live.
That's great.
Yeah, hi.
Finally. How are you?
So good. All right, so it's to start. Really, really nice to meet you here.
Thank you. Same here.
Hopefully one day in person.
Inshallah.
Honestly, yeah, honestly, like the experience of being at home a lot and having so many meetings and talking to so many people in different parts of the world is great, but I think there's
Yeah.
still that, it will be
Yeah.
really good to meet, actually,
Yeah.
like meet them, meet people.
Yeah.
So
It is
yeah,
important for
yeah,
visual storytellers to be out in the field
exactly.
than be
Exactly.
constrained to the desk. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, I know. And but I mean, I think we're like, I mean, at least I am trying to take advantage as much as possible because especially during the last year when everything started, and I feel like it was a bit worse, and I didn't even go out, like I didn't even open the window. I was so scared. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I was meeting people from everywhere, and people were really connecting and sharing their work and saying, oh, we're working on this online talk or workshop or online magazine. So it was really, really cool. I met people from my country actually, that I think I would never met
You're
in.
you're you're from Brazil, right?
Yeah, I'm from Brazil.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
so it was really cool to meet them, but here, and I still didn't get the chance to go back
Yeah.
and yeah, and actually meet them, but
I
that
was
would be really cool.
basically in Istanbul with my family, and trust me, my parents were there, so I would have gone out to record the pandemic, but I chose not to because my parents were next to me, so I couldn't
Mhm.
risk them. So that was like basically 7 to 8 months stuck in one apartment with my parents and my brother.
Oh,
So yeah.
this was last year, right?
Yes, we were the reddest zone on their geographic map. Like
Yeah.
basically, they have this app which basically shows that the red alert areas of like high COVID, like high COVID patients.
Hmm.
So I think we were cherry red. The
Wow.
apartment around surrounding was cherry red, so we didn't even move out. We could only see ambulances and the vegetable vendors like coming in trucks and giving vegetables and stuff. So
Yeah.
it was tough for all of us. And I
Wow.
guess mostly for visual storytellers who are anti-life is to be out in the field and tell stories.
Hmm. But this was when you got the chance to photograph them, right?
Yes, this is the same time. Yeah, I didn't want to waste the time, and
Yeah.
that's what I was like. I have to utilize this time, and I didn't want to scare my parents with my big lens and camera. So I thought, what
Hmm.
do I do? What do I do? Because um, I thought it was really important because they just left one lockdown, a political one in Kashmir, and then the moment they reached, it was just a month, and after that they went to the pandemic lockdown. So the story was actually from moving from one lockdown to the other. So
Hmm.
they basically didn't see much, like even leaving Kashmir
Yeah.
during the political turmoil of 2019. So
Yeah.
for them, nothing changed. So that's it.
Yeah. It's just a different location.
Yes.
All right. So I think we can start. It's 7 now. So Tamim is one of the winners of the Single Image Awards and
Yeah.
one of the 10 finalists. And I have to say that very few photos, like just we saw them, like the moment we saw them, all of us just said we loved it. Like there was a lot of discussion with many photos because many photos which were submitted, but yours was one of the photos that I don't know. We all had different feelings about it, but they were all like, "No, this photo is great. We really love it." And
Thank you.
I really want to start with that photo because I wanted to know the background of it so much because we were just coming up with our own stories about your photo and like being here right now, being able to talk to you and ask you everything that was happening there. It's just really amazing, like to you know
True.
see ourselves months before going through the photos and now here with having the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, so before we go through the selected photo, I want you to tell everyone about how you started your journey in photography.
Well, I was in Pune, which is basically the one of the states of India. It's the part of Maharashtra, Mumbai. So it's the other basically side of Maharashtra. And I was there for holidays with my friends, and I saw this little girl, the picture I shared with you. I was just leaving their building apartment, and I saw this little girl, and I had this, those days they had an XR550 Nokia camera phones, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember buying it only because I knew that it has Carl ZS 2.0 MX, you know, camera on it. So I was like, I had this idea that I have to do photography, right? But it never became something like concrete for me to like, you know, really shift my gears towards it. Before this, I wanted to get into business and stuff. But it was this picture, looking at this little girl, even right now, like I can still
share it.
I can still feel that, you know, like how much it means to be content in life, you know. So this girl, I didn't want to disturb her, so I wanted to actually interact, but I didn't want to, you know, like disturb any of the environment around her. I just wanted to, you know, like share her space for a second, and you know, like capture the memory and leave. And I then back then I didn't know this would become such an important memory, because just few feet away from this picture was this boy who belonged to a relatively richer family, like actually like quite rich. They had a big car, and he was coming out and he started sitting down on the road because his mother would not give him a toy. It made me realize in life that, you know, you can have everything, but if you're not content with what you have, you lose it. So that was my grabbing moment of understanding the importance of visual storytelling and being content with what you are and what you have. And this picture always reminds me of that. And if you look at closely, she is sitting in a garbage dump and she's smiling. So she has nothing. Well, what does she have? She has actually everything. That smile is everything. And that's what sets you as an individual, as a humanist. I think it's very important. So at the end of the day, if you don't have peace, if you don't have that smile, you have nothing. You know, you may have everything, all the worldly luxuries, but if you don't have that peace, that contentment with your life, you have nothing. So that was the beginning of it. And then I actually chose to do journalism, masters back in Kashmir, which is a conflict zone from the last 7 decades between 3 nuclear countries, India, Pakistan, and China. So it was always in my head that telling visual stories would be important, because quite often our stories are dumped and we don't get the attention of the international community. So this was the beginning, and it is now, because I have not stopped telling stories wherever I go, whether it's for my social media audience who keep on insisting for my series, so I keep on doing with my cell phones, or the paid assignments for the media organizations I do, or for NGOs I've been doing. It's been actually, I could say, a decade of photography experience as a photojournalist, documentary filmmaker, photographer. I mean, basically, I've also produced, so every part of visual storytelling in this decade I've tried to do, so that learn different skills and be a better storyteller with every move I make.
Yeah. And
so
in this photo, how old were you when you took this photo?
I think minus 12. I think I was 20 or something. Yeah.
And this was the moment that it clicked for you that you wanted to be a photographer.
Yes.
Right after? Did you feel that when you were taking the photo, or when you looked at the photo later?
Not at all. Like I said, like I put the phone back in my pocket, and when I reached back home, and now I'm relating the 2 stories of this kid who has everything and this kid who has nothing, right? It's in my mind. It's building up, actually. So and that is when I realized, actually, say it took me a month or 2 to you know, prepare myself. You know, Tamim, you're gonna be a visual storyteller. There is nothing else made for you. So yeah, this was the kick, actually, for me to get into this.
Yeah. And it's interesting that even after this, because a lot of people, they start with one type of photography, one kind of photography, and then after a while they switch to something else. I feel like the story you told about this photo and the photo you took, it's everything. It's connected to the things that you do until this day. It's photojournalism, it's politics related, it's
human rights.
Yeah. And it's, you know, so I feel like it's all connected, and you have like this journey that it's, you know, it's one thing that it's really well connected. So it's interesting to know, because you told me about this photo before, but now I got the chance to see it. So it's interesting to know, the background. So how did you start working actually as a photographer? And, from the person that was using a Nokia phone that you said, and then you were there just, trying and exploring, and then suddenly you are, not suddenly, of course, but then you are a photojournalist.
If I tell you honestly, I didn't even have a camera when I started doing my first stories. I used to borrow it from my friends and do stories. I don't know whether you would believe that, but that's the reality. Like, I would do these assignments. So I started working with this NGO, which is working for the enforcedly disappeared people. So I would document stories of these women, the relatives of these disappeared people who were taken out by Indian security apparatus and never returned. So, I mean, I would ask my friends, like, if they can give me camera. Sometimes for weeks, I would not have a camera. But it was like this kick that I have to tell a story, no matter what. I have a camera or not, okay. And back then there was people didn't have an idea of like how cell phone can still do it, and I myself didn't. But this picture would remind me that you can still do the job, get it done. But back of the head, maybe technically I was not that sound. So I was like, oh, I need a camera to take these pictures, because social media had actually kicked up and everybody was posting a lot of pictures on Facebook and stuff. So I was like, there has to be a way for me to tell a story. And I was just a college going kid. So how am I supposed to do all this stuff, right? And I don't come from a rich background. I also come from a middle class family, and I didn't have like the resources to go for the camera, which is later after I finished my master's actually. I got my own camera, which was the Canon 60. But when I was working for APDP, when I was doing other assignments, I've done many assignments, which is basically borrowed camera and send it for publication.
Yeah.
So that's how it began. And then when I started doing my journalism, that was 2009, 2011, I finished my master's. And then I guess maybe 7 or 8 months after, I was I moved from Kashmir, because I was working with this organization, which is a political magazine, Dalka. I was their video correspondent in Kashmir. So I would do video stories for them, but for personal use, I would always take pictures, because you see, I'm a storyteller at heart. So whether it's moving or stills, but I like to make people still with my pictures than, they move with the visuals. I want people to stand still and look at the picture and be there. I feel that's a win for me. So I would go on this journey of actually renting the equipment sometimes, taking money from parents or taking money from friends, and then renting equipment and doing the stories. And then this organization gave me the first camera, which was a video camera. It was XR something. I don't remember the name, 500. It was an HD camera. It had an option of taking stills. So I would take video stories for them, but I would still keep on doing the stills with that video camera, just to, for my heart, like, yes, I'm still doing the progress of a story, still a visual storyteller.
And it's really interesting for me, the support that you have, because I had the same. I didn't have a camera, but then I had friends who really supported me. They're like, no, you can use my camera. And I'm thinking, you're trusting me with this very expensive equipment. So these are things that help a lot, because
True.
Because they are expensive. Cameras are expensive. And then for you to make that jump, if you're not even sure if that's something that you want to do, it's a huge investment. There are cameras that are more expensive than cars. So for you to have this, this group, this community to support you in what you're doing, I think that's really, really great. And it makes me think of the conversation we're having now. And hopefully we are able to just inspire people that are watching this and, support them in any way. So. Yeah, this is like really, really hope. And I hope we can do that when you're telling your story. So I will start now showing the photos that I selected to show. But I'm going to start with your photo that was selected for the awards, the winner photo. I love this photo. So can you just tell me the story behind it? Who is this man? Where is this? What's happening? Everything.
So basically, this is from one of my projects called Saffron Shrinking. And over the last few decades, because of the continuous conflict, maybe state has not paid proper attention to giving new routes to these farmers, saffron farmers in Kashmir, which is actually the costliest spice in the world. And there was a time when it was even better than the other countries, even better than, it's still better than, actually the quality is still better than Iranian saffron and other saffrons. But due to the lack of management by the state affairs, it's still suffering, it's dwindling. Like if you would see um, so many flowers, like I remember looking at the pictures of my senior photographers of saffron fields in Kashmir, and they would always have them like full of saffron, right? Saffron flowers everywhere. And then when I went to take this, I had the same idea, right? That I'm gonna go and I'm gonna have like full bloom of saffron everywhere, right? I couldn't get those pictures. I really couldn't get those pictures. And this was the only area where something was happening. Like, some layers, I could look at some layers. So that's about the project basically. It's basically urbanization. It's about the lack of management. It's about how these farmers are suffering right now because they're not able to produce what they were producing before.
Yeah.
So this boy is one of the saffron farmers, and he is wearing a Kashmiri cloak. It's called firan in Kashmiri. So this is a traditional cloak which we wear. And usually the season of saffron, like they start picking flowers in it's basically September, if I'm not wrong, September, October, November. So it's cold, so he's out there in the morning picking up saffron flowers. So the idea was to basically look at the lives of all these saffron farmers and try to understand what are the problems they're facing in making this crop produce more for them.
Yeah.
So that's about the background of the story. This boy is among the many pictures I've taken basically of the farmers. So that's about him. And technically, like to be really honest, like I do love this picture, but I do find other pictures more stronger. I don't know what
Yeah.
you guys saw in this, but I appreciate. I mean, like sometimes we all don't see on the same level.
Yeah.
But I do know technically this is a sound picture. I mean, it's not a bad picture, but like I think I shared with you about this woman, which is basically picking up the nectar from the flowers. So I liked among the project, I liked that picture
Yeah.
because I could never find the picture full of flowers, which I missed.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I will share with you why this photo to me just really stood out because usually when we look at photos of men, there's a lot of, men doing like things that are strong and manly
Yeah,
things. And then you see this man just doing this very delicate job. But I'm sure it's not just, you cannot just do it anyway. It requires some knowledge about it. So he's doing this delicate
absolutely.
job. And, the color is, I don't know, I think the contrast of what's usually expected of men and then what he's actually doing, like he's picking flowers. So that contrast to me was what stood out, and that's what I really loved about the photo. And it's just so peaceful, which is also a contrast to what you just said, because when we know about the backstory, it's not that peaceful. They're suffering now because they don't sell as much as before. So so it's
Absolutely.
just the contrast of everything is what
So
really
so the
stood out for me.
So the kid is basically picking out these flowers in the basket, and then there's a process of like actually 3-4 phases they go through. The flowers are then basically taken out of the nectar, like the thing inside, which is saffron. And these flowers are separately also sold. So it's a process of they have to dry them first, and then it has a root also that also goes. So everything sells.
Hmm.
That's why it's the costly spice. And the tragedy is that it could have become one of the leading economy developers for the politically ridden Kashmir, but not much of attention was paid for it to become, what it is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And was this photo, I'm going to move on to the next one, which is part of the same series. Was this series of photos done was it commissioned? Was it part of a bigger project? How did you end up there?
To be really honest, this was supposed to be my personal project because, like I told you, like I did see my senior photographers taking pictures of saffron in Kashmir, and I wanted to basically take same pictures. I just wanted to, reflect what they're doing, right? So that, which turned out to be like, it's not easy because there's nothing much left for you to photograph. If you could see, there are like now absolutely just green grass around them. So if I would take this picture per se, like if I took it like 10, 20 years ago, you would see full bloom behind him. But now you're seeing very little saffron growth.
Yeah.
So it's tragic, even though he's smiling. I mean, that's the contrast.
Yeah, and this is so interesting because like this is something I didn't see in the photo at first. This is why I saw so many photos. I'm like, I want to show this one. I want to share this one because I didn't see any of that. I'm like, oh, this photo is beautiful. He's smiling. He's happy. But now that you're saying that the background, years before would be very, very different. So it just brings something completely different to the photo.
I mean, these are new kids who are the farmers, right? And I do agree to the fact when you say that you see manly, masculine thing, they're not doing this as soft. It's actually very delicate stuff to do. And men and women are like, it's their bread and butter. So they have to be strong and delicate as well when picking up the flowers, because you don't have to lose the root, because the root basically grows every year again and again. So it is to be delicately picked. So even if they are men, they have to be delicate.
Yeah, this contrast between the strength and the like being delicate is just really amazing. And now that you mention, it's like, I don't know, it's just what makes me think that this is even more interesting still, even knowing the story. Like, I know there's a lot behind it, but the contrast to me is just keeps standing out. And is there anything that you would like to share about this photo in particular?
I mean, she is one of the family members who has seen saffron from last 30 years in Kashmir. So even though she was basically talking to me and saying that, like how we pick up little. Because they used to have a lot of spice in this field, but now they have nothing. So it's very little, whatever. So that was the conversation actually happening with her, and I thought it was very interesting because they do this very early morning or late in the evening. Because I'm not sure like why do they do it, but I guess it has to do with the fog. Because that I don't know what that does to the flower, but they don't want it to be picked dry. So the flower does not have to be like in the full sunlight. So it has to be like she's now leaving the field.
Yeah. And this takes me back a bit of what you said at the beginning when you were taking the photos with your phone, and about happiness and about appreciating life and what you have.
True.
Regardless of the hardships and things that are happening around you, because they're going to happen.
Absolutely.
And you just have to try to live the way you can with
True.
happiness as much as we can.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move on to the next project that I thought was super interesting. I said this before to you, but I need to share this. I saw your photo and I loved it. And then when you shared your material, I'm like, oh, wait, you took this photo? And it's really cool because you see things online and you read about it, but you don't know the photographer. Like, you see the name and sometimes you don't know them. And then to actually know it's you, and again, having the chance to talk to you is really amazing. So can you tell also the story about this photo?
Actually, this was done for a Pakistani national media magazine called The Dawn. And I pitched them the story that there's this first holy of widows, because in Hindu religion, a widow is not supposed to play with color. So she would ideally be seen ritually in white dress, and she is not. So this was a taboo in the Indian society. And there's this Smartan who runs this organization, Shulab International, and he gathered all these women and he said that they have a right to be happy too. So it is a very strong story. And to be really honest, before I begin with the story, I want to tell you something really interesting. I've never seen these nationalities of Indians and Pakistanis coming closer because of the rift they have always had. But when I shared this story, when this story was published on Dawn, and if you can still go to the link and you look at the comments, It's from Indians and Pakistanis, and they're so much overwhelmed to see this happening. And I could see the love, exchange between each other. The Pakistanis were proud that Indians are breaking the taboos, and Indians were happy that Pakistan are highlighting the good things about their country. So this was really important for me, and I did not know that I'm going to achieve this with this story.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit of like the happy moments which you have as a storyteller, that these are the important impacts. Like sometimes you don't even know what your picture can do to the world, right?
Yeah.
About this picture, the entire series was done in UP state of India, where there are these houses for old people where they are kept, and they are basically just sort of thrown away by their kids and just dumped into these old age homes. So this organization basically wanted to give them happiness, and I wanted to be part of that. So I went there, and it took me basically 6 hours to travel by taxi. And I reached there.
Wow.
I had to reach basically midnight to reach there early morning, because it gets really hot in the noon. So they had to do all of this like before, before the noon. So there's a lot of this picture basically was interesting to me because
Yeah.
everybody was trying to so since everybody's happy, some of the photographers would like to make women pose also, but I don't believe in doing that unless my assignment is about posing a subject. So I actually went over the tree to just take a look at it, like how the entire media attention is towards these women who are celebrating their life and being happy, which was not happening before.
Yeah, this is amazing. I really love it. Let me show. I selected a few others from the same day.
So this is inside the one of these temples where they were playing Holi, the festival of colors.
Oh, sorry. That was the last one. So, all right. So before we move on to the next one, I honestly, I could sit here for hours because I wanted to show all of the photos that I saw. But you shared with me this project now. That is something that you haven't shared before, right? You haven't published it?
Yeah, this is unpublished work, and hopefully I'm expecting to work more on this and get it published. It has had it's right in the beginning of the pandemic. I was working on this, and then it was pitched to few editors, but then the pandemic happened, so they had different priorities. So that's the reason why it's still stuck with me. But I'm hoping to work more on this to hopefully get it published in the future. But this is very personal because I have learned a lot from these people. Very resilient and full of life.
And
So this
where
is
was this taken, and what's the story?
so this picture is one of the Syrian refugees living in Turkey, and this clinic is basically made for Syrian refugees who lose their limbs in wars in Syria, and they are treated here. They are given prosthetics. So he's one of the victims of I think Russian bomb and Russian and Assad regime bomb, and then it took him 5-6 years to recover, and then he basically left after 3 years to get his prosthetics done to Turkey. But then he is there, he's working there, he's a tailor, and he is happy with his life so far.
And this is a personal project, right?
Yes, it is.
And how did you end up there? Did you know someone and you just said like, I want to work on this project, can I come in? Like, how did you end up doing it?
I have done a story on a Syrian limbless refugee in 2016 for Al Jazeera. His name was Muhammad Qadur, and a very fascinating individual. Like, I have come across the most strong people actually come from the war zones. Actually, they don't bicker about life much, but whatever they have left, they want to live it properly and with respect and with faith, with happiness. So that was it. Like, I did this project, this feature for Al Jazeera, and that was the idea. Like back then I was in my mind, I'm sure there are so many victims who travel, and actually the highest number of refugees are right now in Turkey. So and Syria is a place which is the only place in the world that where people have not lost their legs to landmines, but bombs, like literally bombs flying over your heads. So I was interested in basically documenting these people and telling their stories. So that's what led to me in researching more about this project, this clinic, which is treating these limbless people, and with so much love, with so much care, and all these people are getting this treatment for free.
I was gonna ask you about this. Like, when you take these photos, like, what do you take? Like, how does that leave you after working on this project, for example?
It is I would have honestly said that it would take a toll on me, but it does not, because I already come from a war zone. So the death and destruction is right from the childhood. I've seen it. So yet this does impact you again. Like, it's not that it does not leave any impact on you.
Yeah.
So it just like you stop and you keep on like thinking about your life, because you suddenly meet a person like who doesn't even have like 10% of you have in your life, and he's showing you resilience and strength. And I mean, like, if to me personally, camera has been a teacher. It has taught me so much, not just how to take pictures or how to capture a moment or someone's life, but through this procedure of taking pictures, I have learned so many the lives of so many individuals. I've touched so many lives in a decade of experience in photography, that it just builds on becoming a better and better individual. So all these people, they make you strong, actually.
And even the photo, like this photo before, for example, one of the things you mentioned was love, and how people take care with love. And I know usually we just assume how things are, and we look at photos, we don't know the story behind it. So we're just assuming a bunch of things. And I do that. I think everyone does that. But one thing that I did not expect you to say, or a word, I did not expect to hear you say the word love when we're looking at this photos, this series of photos. So that's why I was thinking, how do you feel, and how does that make you feel, and what do you observe when you're taking these photos? Because I'm sure you just don't go there and click and leave. You cannot, you just don't pass by. Like, you're a part of that moment.
You have been a photographer yourself, so you know how important it is to observe. So in this clinic, like I went, say, 4 or 5 times, and then it was finally for me to feel comfortable in taking pictures of people when they feel they're vulnerable, but they feel also strong, right? So like per se, the picture we have on screen right now, there's this Turkish girl who works in the clinic, and this man is from I guess Yemen, and he has lost his leg in the war in Yemen. So she is taking care of. She's his physio, and that to me is love. Actually, like, she loves humanity, and the reason why she is working there, even though I'm sure it's not that a high-paid job, but she's there for something. She's there for humanity, the love for humanity. And both these people don't know each other. Their only connection is pure and sheer humanity and love, for humanity. So she is there to share humanity and love, and he is there to get humanity and love. So he is getting it. And if you can, there are other pictures which I'm sure you don't have them. I would have liked to share, but we don't have much time. He walks with his new prosthetic limb.
Oh yes, I saw that photo. Yeah.
Yes.
That's really.
So yeah. So that's. Yeah.
What about this one?
So this is what the Syrians actually get back to Turkey with. They have no money for prosthetics. They have nothing. So it's like what you would see in the movies of 70s and 80s. Like, people would have, like, anybody who's lost his limb would use a iron shoe or something. The one on the right basically is literally like in the movies, from the movies of the 70s or 80s. And the left one, to my left, basically, is again an iron wheeled shoe for a limbless Syrian refugee. and then they leave them at this prosthetic clinic when they get the new one. So it was very important for me to have like back and forth of this visual communication, that what they get with and what they leave with. So that's why I made this picture. And actually, to me, actually, this just shows the beginning of the lives of people who go through wars. Like, what do they go through?
And this is a project that you're still working on it. You're still going to go back. You mentioned you're going back, right?
Yes. I plan to go back and work on this project, and I have something else lined up also. But this, I want to work more on this.
Yeah. I want to say that, like, something that I really, really like about your photos is just how delicate you are with, really, really strong situations. So you approach difficult situations, I believe, in a very delicate way. So the photos are not very heavy, because they don't need to be heavy, and they don't need to have that full negative impact, like that punch to your face, to actually have an impact. So I believe that when you create something that is delicate, it highlights the empathy, and then we actually are able to create more connections with that person, because we see more similarities between us than actually the differences. I that's how I feel when I see your photos. And
I mean, to be honest, like, I've never believed in taking gory pictures of violence, because I always thought the story is the aftermath. It's never when someone is like in a war zone or in an event. That is not the story. The story is basically what is after the impact of this incident on an individual's life. So I always believed, like you say, that the delicate approach. I mean, it's very important, because if you don't have that, and if you don't see that side of your subject or the individual or the human you're picturing or the situation, I don't think you can get that connect with the audience who you're taking this picture for. So I feel it's very important to, of course, if you're a news photographer, you have to show certain stuff, but how long can you look at that picture? Like I told you in the beginning, I believe that my success is only when someone takes 2 more seconds extra, and he's as still as the picture, and only his eye is looking at the details of the picture. So that's where I feel that I have won something. Like in my heart, I feel satisfaction that, yes, this was a good picture.
Yeah. And I think the also, like, the next series, I just really want you to give the introduction, because I read about it. I had no idea that this was happening, and when you sent me the link, I was reading. I was like, what? So I think this is something that I talk to especially kids a lot, is that I feel like with social media, we forget sometimes what we can do with photography. So it's not only about, oh, look at this amazing house, I have this amazing car. Like, it's okay if you want to do that, but you can also do other things. And I feel like, especially the kids that I get to meet, they are not exposed to that. So they don't see what you can do with photography. You can actually inform people. You can actually educate people with that. So I that's something that came up to my mind, like when I was reading this link you sent me. So if you can give us an explanation.
Yeah. To be honest, like when I started working on this project, it was again for Al Jazeera Digital Magazine, and there was this new software, and it was really good. I don't. I mean, I do like all of this work on their website, but I actually like the digital magazine part. So I love the narrative side of telling stories. So this was a narrative story, basically, of the witch hunt which women go through in India. And I tried to dig in and research some of the subjects of how the sorts of challenges women have in India, and then this came as to me as most cornered one. Like, there is not much discussions happening on this, because there's already so much happening in a bigger cities like in India, and this huge population, and then there's too much news, too much noise to be accurate. So this project, like, I started researching on it because I had a friend who said that this kind of things still happen in India, which is very primitive, and developed, at least developing country, this should not be happening. So I was like, maybe it's just, I started researching and I could not find any visual content, to be really honest on this. I mean, if you Google right now, I don't know how much visual content is on these women who are unfortunately hunted as witches in India.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually met, even you might have seen on my Instagram, I shared her story also with Al Jazeera Stories recently.
Yeah.
She passed away in 2016, and I had no idea that had happened. And then I shared her picture. She was one of the women who's, because of who the law of black magic came into the picture in India, where they said that, like, you cannot prosecute a woman just because you feel that she has done black magic or something. So she is Sahin Bai. She's also one of the three women. These women were basically a lot of, I can't actually talk about the details because they're very, they might be shocking for people. So I don't want to go into details, but if anybody's interested, they can Google this article on Al Jazeera. Is still there. So they suffered a lot, and it is because of them there is some law which protects women for not being called a witch, and then the witch hunt. So, but it still happens. I was reading a report recently that it still happens every day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, like in a male chauvinistic society, like they don't need excuses, so it can get worse.
I will share the link on the chat, so the one you sent me, so people can take a look in Al Jazeera website, right?
Yes.
And then so we're moving to the last one. And this one, I think, is the highlight of the what I mentioned before about love and taking delicate photos. And just tell us everything about this photo series, please.
So my parents decided to leave Kashmir in post-August 2019 when India abrogated the special status of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, basically scrapping its own agreement with the people of Kashmir and making it a union territory. So, like every Kashmiri, my parents were all locked up because, as per Indian state, they were expecting that there would be enemy groups that can hamper the peace. So they locked up everything, no internet, no communication for a good solid 6 months. And then after 6 months, 2G started working. So it was back to Stone Age. So my parents suffered a lot because they were really getting uneasy by this lockdown, even though they have seen these lockdowns for a long time in their age and life in Kashmir. So this was their first time they wanted to like go away from this lockdown, and because they were like, we need some peace.
Yeah.
So they left Kashmir. I did their visa and tickets, and we were together in Istanbul, say in the early January or February in 2020. So I guess they traveled maybe a month with us to a few places, and then Turkey declared lockdown. So they became part of a different lockdown, which they never expected because they thought they're going to go out and they're going to have life, right? And so they were stuck in this apartment for 7 months. They couldn't go anywhere out except when there would be days given by the state of Turkey when old people can move out. So this picture is part of the series I did with my iPhone about my parents. Them sharing this space and a different lockdown. Them sharing a different lockdown. To be really honest, it's not just this apartment because they've been part of each other for a long time and shared all the lockdowns. But this is a new lockdown in a different country they're sharing together.
And I really, really, really love the photo with your dad smiling here in the mirror.
Oh,
I think it's so, I think it's really cute.
No.
So sorry?
There is an interesting story of this picture, actually.
Okay.
My dad was cracking a joke to my mother that we look like gypsies. Like we have nothing. Like it's like we're stuck in one place But the attire, the way we were like looking at each other every day, we were like gypsies, like, we don't even wear proper clothes because we don't have to go out. So my dad was cracking a joke, and I thought it was an important sentiment moment to share, because you don't see us Kashmiris laughing often because there's much but we try to be strong. So we are humorous people, but so it was the moment I thought it's important to capture. So I did.
Yeah. And you said you spent 8 months with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is my mother and father. They're speaking with their children, my siblings, after 8 months.
Oh, wow.
They could not contact them, no phones, no internet, nothing. So then Indian state started 2G, and that's when they could call them back and speak to them.
Yeah, I just love it, because this one on the left, for example, is just intimacy, like couple intimacy, and you can see that there's, I don't know, I just love couples. Like, I love couple photo, not the cliche one, but them, for example. I can see, without even you telling me the story, that they have a lot together. Like, they've been through a lot together, and it's just when I see the photos, all of them, I just see partnership that has been going 3 years. And this is me, I could just be assuming things, but I see that, like, this connection,
Absolutely.
this partnership between your parents. And I loved it. I loved them. I thought my favorite one would be the winner photo, but when I saw the photos of your parents, I'm like, these are my favorites. I absolutely love them. And this one is, I selected this one to be the last of our presentation. Yeah.
This is their first time going out of their house in 6 months or 4 months, something like that. And they were like missing Bosphorus. So we don't have a sea in Kashmir. We live in a valley with lakes. So they were like, we need to go out. Today the government is allowed the old people to go out. So I was accompanying them. So this is Bosphorus, and they're just having a look. The first view after 6 or 7 months of Corona curfew lockdown.
I know it's crazy, like, to be locked down with everyone. Sometimes you just can't take them, but it's for you to experience this moment with your parents. I'm just like, it's really amazing. And for me, especially, like, I cannot stop thinking, because I haven't seen my parents in a while. So I'm thinking, like, what if I'm there taking photos when they can finally come out and do something? That would be really amazing.
Absolutely. And to be honest, like, we have been part of lockdowns with each other for a long time in the place we live in.
Yeah.
But this was basically, you were in a different country. You did not come here for lockdown. So that's why, like, there were actually more funny stories of us in the lockdown. I became a barber, and my father is like, you should leave photography. You should start becoming, like, you do a good haircut. I did his haircut. So
yeah. Oh my God. Everyone's becoming a barber at home. So, I mean, honestly, this is amazing. As I told you, I would spend hours speaking to you. I really, really, really love the conversation I had today with you. I love seeing your
Same
photos.
here.
I just, like, you want a fan of your work, honestly. And like, even the comments on the photos I shared, like, of your photos, I don't know if you can see the comments now, but, like, I feel like everyone really appreciated it, and they saw the love on your parents' photos. That was really amazing. And it stood out to me. The love conversation would come only now at the end, with your parents' photos. But it was really interesting that it also came before, when you were taking photos of the woman, the doctor, and she's treating the person with the amputated leg. So all of that is really great. So Tamim, thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking to you. I swear I loved it. And I really hope to meet you in person. But
Inshallah.
We have a question from Charlotte. So she's asking if you think making books and exhibition installations will be a major part of your creative journey in the future.
I have thought about it, but I still think that, even to be really honest, like, when you asked me about this conversation, I had to dig down in my hard drive to look for these pictures, right? So I have 10 years of work. But when I look at so much work done by people, I still feel like I have not reached there where I would start exhibiting my work. But inshallah, I hope I get some opportunity where I will like to exhibit some of my stories, which are very personal and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I love to see it. I hope that by then, if you exhibit them somewhere, we're all able to go out and meet each other. Yeah.
Inshallah. Yeah, this pandemic has taken a toll on all of us. Inshallah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You too.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot
hope
for
to
having
meet you.
me. And thank you, Tasweer team and PA Qatar. You guys have been amazing.
Thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.